I'm Matthew Tapp, the creator of Barrows and Borderlands, back from my trip up north, the cold north, and getting things wrapped up for the Portal to Adventure Kickstarter. It is now in the hands of Imcho, and it's up to them to box things and get things out. But it's been a little while since I posted a video, and I wanted to talk a bit about Sandbox gaming and emergent storytelling versus linear games where everything's sort of predetermined by the referee or dungeon master. Any of y'all that have played in the Barrows and Borderlands Game of Games campaign that we run over on our Discord, y'all can find a link to that below. It's open for any players. Y'all know that the game is mainly ran by the players. They have the map of the Borderlands region, a loose map of the terrain. And players schedule games, they determine where they're going, and nothing is predetermined other than I've built out locations. And so there's no big bad evil guy or anything like that. We don't have story arcs or, the character backstory doesn't really factor into the referee's decision making as far as they're not pre-writing anything. They're just running the world. And that's a different style than a lot of folks nowadays are running. And it takes a little bit of commitment on part of the players and of the referee. So to get into this sort of emergent sandbox style game, there's a little bit of buy-in from the players. Usually I tell them hey, look, y'all are going to be leading the charge on this. I have the world set up. Our campaign does use one-to-one time, where one day in the real world is one day in the game. I'll have another video talking about how to set something like that up. But when we started our campaigns, we didn't start by going, oh, here's the whole world, here's everything, go ahead and begin. You start small. So generally, and this is good for referees because you're going to not know where the players are going. So the best you can do is build out locations and maybe have some tables ready. But starting with the old school, almost Diablo style dungeon town is usually the best way to begin these sort of campaigns. You have your job as the referee is to build a town and build a dungeon. Maybe start off with 3 or 4 levels of the dungeon. You don't have to go crazy. I think if you do that and build out the town itself, you've got a good starting position for your campaign. And even in our campaign, referees will take a hex and they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to build out this hex as an adventure location. And so that's usually where they start with is town, dungeon. There's a reason that worked for video games for quite a while. I have an example here that I've drawn up for our campaign. This is going to be a new starting area for new players. And so what I did is I built out a simple town map. I went a little crazy, but on here you can see we've got... I'm going to fix the camera up so it doesn't keep moving. So on here you can see we have the town right here, river down the middle, a little bit of forest, maybe some things to pique interests, and then over here I have a series of dungeons. And generally I'll have maybe just one of them be important, and maybe I won't have even written the other ones. Maybe they're just locked doors and we won't know what opens them, and that leaves me room to grow later. But you've got one dungeon and you build out a couple levels of it. Only 3 is really what you need at the beginning, and because you can always expand your dungeons. Walls can fall down, you can add sections to it, etc. And this is what new players will be introduced to when they make it into the Borderlands. Just this village, just this area. And later, once they get used to the play style of being able to do whatever they want, maybe they'll venture out of town. Maybe they'll go and check out the rest of the hex map. And usually, if they're going somewhere that I haven't prepared, it's just a matter of okay, maybe I'll roll in some random tables and see what happens. Or if it's a really cool location that I had planned to like build out more, like a really cool dungeon or something, we'll just say, okay, we can go explore that next week. That'll be where your characters are traveling to. But in this town area, chances are you're going to want to build out everything. Um, I don't think you have to go crazy and know like what's in everyone's wallet in town. But if you look at modules like the Village of Hamlet, they did go pretty crazy. They know where like they're hiding their coffers in their house and such like that, and that can be useful for a referee because you don't know what the players are going to do. But after building this out and drawing out the town, I've got some idea of maybe, like down here, I want the estate of the lord that rules this area. Maybe I want to make sure that there's a blacksmith in here. I'm using some of the Arduin tools, so I'm thinking about having a multiversal trading company outpost right here. And, just drawing it out, getting that down on paper. Afterwards, if you can condense, the names of places or any of your notes down to just a couple 2-page spreads, those usually work best. Because if the less paper flipping you have to do while playing the game, the better. But once you set up your starting village and your starting dungeon, and you know where everything is, the next part is you can build outwards. And, if you wanted to know what else is in the hex, or what's in the hex next to this one, maybe it's a good idea to know that the next hex over there are mountains. So you know that the players can see the mountains from where they are. Or maybe the ocean is to the west, so the next hex over is a beach line that goes up the coast. That kind of stuff you can kind of expand as you grow. You don't really even have to know much about the world itself. You might just know, okay, there's a couple religions, and maybe this town's only focused with one of them. I was up at Arnicon recently, and there was a lot of discussion. They had a panel with Ken St. Andre, Sandy Peterson, and Alex McCrease, and they were talking about their methods of world building. And I thought they all had good points, but the way I work on it is I do it kind of a mix between what they were working on. Alex goes really, really hard in developing every little part of the world. Sandy, he's more focused from what he was talking about like the bigger concepts of the world, like what's affecting everything. The closest one to me was more like what Ken St. Andre was talking about, the creator of Tunnels and Trolls. He was saying that he knows that somewhere out in the world there is an Arabic-like people, and maybe somewhere else there's knights and kings like the Round Table, and maybe there's that okay, generally there's magic out there, but maybe we don't exactly know how it works. And religions, well, maybe you find out what religions are in there, talking to who made the cleric in the party. Oh, he says he wants to worship Aphrodite. Maybe Aphrodite's out in the world. And that way you're not locking everything in super early, because you're just starting this campaign. This is a new world is the idea of this. Granted, I'm making mine for the Borderlands, so I already know some of those things. But if you're brand new, you can just start it this way. And then when you hop in, you just start with, hey, you guys are fresh off the caravan. Who cares what else is out there? Here's what you know. There's a village. Your characters are here for some reason. Gold, glory, adventure, whatever. And there's a dungeon in the town. And the buy-in from the players is that they know, okay, we're doing the town. That's our starting area, basically. And then you just you build from there. Maybe the players open up one of the dungeon levels, and you roll on a table, and there's an altar to some demon, and maybe you use a name generator, or you just come up with something on the fly, and then give it a name like Balgor or whatever, the demon, And you go, okay, well, that's really cool. Write it in your notes. When the players get back to town, maybe you come up with some ideas on who Balgor is, and maybe who the people that built this dungeon were. Like, oh man, they must worship this guy, or somebody here worshipped him. Maybe there's people in town that still worship Balgor. Maybe there's a cult. Maybe the cult meets under moonlight out near the wishing well in town. Okay, so you write that down. If the players ever come across it, or if they hear word, maybe they hear a rumor that, hey, I heard some of the townsfolk were meeting by the wishing well, and they were talking about that demon Balgor. The player goes, ooh, Balgor, that's the altar we found. Maybe we should investigate. And this so-called story builds itself from there. I always tell my players that the story, quote unquote, is what we did last session, and you're telling somebody about it. We're not going into the game expecting there to be a story or a narrative at all. We're just going, okay, I'm this person, here's the situation I've been given. Not, oh, well, I'm supposed to act this way because in my backstory it says this thing, and oh, well, the referee needs to work in this horrible thing from my past, or whatever it is. That's just not how we play at the table. Not that it's wrong, it's just not how we run. We like to just see things as they emerge, which is where the term emergent storytelling comes from. And then after the game, we go, oh, that was really cool. You know, we encountered Balgor worshippers out there at midnight. And you're telling the events of the game. That's the story, is you telling the events of the game, not in-game play. But anyway, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent today. But there are a couple resources that can help you if you're starting out. I know Gygax came up with his, it was like the 76 challenge. The Gygax challenge, if you Google that, he has a similar method where he starts small with world building and then grows out from there. There's also Bandit's Keep, his YouTube channel. He does a lot of emergent style storytelling in his games, and he's got some live plays of, I think he's playing OD&D in some of them. He also has some Hyperborea live plays, and you can see from there where, oh, he rolled on the random table that I found lycanthropes in these woods. Okay, well, maybe there's a reason that they're out there. Okay, well, after the session, you're taking your notes, filling it out, and that's where you're sort of finding out the world. My players and I have been playing in the Borderlands region of Fernham, which is the world that we're currently on, for a little while now. But it's not the only world we've played in. But when we started in this world, it wasn't fully developed. I didn't know who the Sorcerer King of Erden was, or what his plans were. I just knew that somewhere out there, there's evil magic users. Somewhere out there, there's almost like a Roman legionnaire military, but they've got pike and shot. Okay. And then I started with that. As we played the game, we slowly discovered more about the world by playing it. Oh, okay, so the Sorcerer King, he rules over the whole country with a magocracy, and he's got these sorcerer princes who are not by bloodline, but it's just the most powerful mages in the land that he declares as a sorcerer prince. And then we would sit there and discover, okay, well, how does that affect the society? And maybe there's a caste system between the strongest magic users and people that don't have magic, and stuff like that. But that just came up from us playing the game. We didn't plan all that out at the beginning. The only thing we had at the beginning was kind of like a paragraph of the theme that we wanted to go off of. So, but that's all I got for today. I just had a little bit of amusing. I'm excited to be back. We've got some more videos coming out soon. Maybe some more organized videos. This one was very much so just like off the cuff. I just wanted to get back and talk about it. And coming up, we've got some more videos about how to play Barrows and Borderlands and how to get into the campaign. We're going to have some videos about some of the other games that we run on the server. And we also have some new things coming out. So we've got Radioactive Boogaloo 2 is in the works. Castle Dread is in the works. That's going to be a very fun mega dungeon that I'm co-writing with John, who, if y'all are on the server, you know, is Bingus Boppus. But that's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we're going to be having some videos about the Portal to Adventure Kickstarter, because it'll be in people's hands soon. And once it is, we'll be playing it, of course. And I'll be showing you how to mix in Arduin and Tonusborg material to your Barrows and Borderlands game. And how Arduin acts as a bit of a DLC for old school games, which is my favorite part of it. Pretty much you can always play whatever game you want to play and then just modify it with all the cool stuff you find. But anyway, that's enough for today. Y'all have a good one, and game on and perish.